everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this double flip split front card. It's got two little bits to get you to the middle. It's quite quick and easy to make, so without further ado, let me get started. I'll bring in the ingredients. Actually, I'll show you where I got the inspiration from. This is the new Utterly Fabulous Designer Series paper. This will be available on November 4th. With the release of the new online exclusives, and in this pack there is the paper, and it's basically got 4 lovely landscape pieces, and I thought, oh, I could make a flip from one of those. When you're trying to think of what you can use a 5.5 by 4 landscape piece for, so that was where I got the inspiration from. So this one I made using half of the 12 by 12 stretch, and the other one is going to be the other half of it. So let me show you what we need. It starts with a piece of cardstock. It's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. That we know it's quite easy, but what we need to do is cut from the score line down at 1 1/4 inches. So I'm just going to bring in the paper trimmer. And on the Stampin' Up paper trimmer, as you know, it goes up to 1 1/2 on this side. So I'm going to line it up at 1 1/4, and I will pop the cutting blade in where the score line is before it's folded. I always like to do this before it's folded and cut down. And then I'm going to flip it over and line it up the other side at 1 1/4. Just need to stand up actually so I can make sure I get the score line set. So where the score line is, stick the paper cutter in and cut up. So now you've got 3 pieces on the front of your cardstock, and now we can fold them. But like I say, I just like to score mine before I make the cut. So I'll bring in the bone folder and give those a nice trim, a nice score. So what I want to do next is add the middle, which is a standard layer down, 5 1/4 by 4, but I'm actually going to stamp one of the Otters from the set. So this is the set, it's really cute. So I'm going to use this little lying down guy because I think he's quite funny. And it just adds a little bit of something to the middle of the card. So I'm using Early Espresso just to give him a little bit of dark side definition. And then actually what I'm going to do is the circle. It just says, "You're utterly amazing." So while I'm stamping and got the ink out, I might as well go ahead and do this, as they are the only 2 pieces of stamping. So now we've got utterly amazing and a lovely little otter for the inside. So I can put the ink pad away. But I'm going to bring in the Stampin' Blends and just give this guy's tummy a little bit of colouring. So we know he's a little bit lighter on his tummy. So I was a little bit surprised they didn't actually make that as evident in the stamps. And then I'm going to bring in the copper and just colour him quickly. I love Stampin' Blends because you don't have to be a colouring genius to be able to do it. So that was the bronze. I'm actually going to use the darker Pecan Pie. Oh, this has happened to me before. There we go. Sorry about that. Just add a little bit of definition for him. So that's the otter in. Actually, no, I think I'm just going to go just around the top. I can't even remember what I did on the original. Yeah, I just sort of did his ears and slightly the top of his head. So there we go. Don't want the whole card to be about colouring an otter. But we can go ahead now and pop this on the inside. The only downside, if there is one, of the stamping blends is that it does tend to bleed through the cardstock, so it can't be something you want to use both sides for. But there we go, lovely little otter on the inside. And then the pieces that we need to finish off the card, there is Pool Party, and these pieces are 1 1/8 by 4 1/8, and the middle is 2 7/8 by 4. They're all 4 1/8, but these are 1 1/8 at the side and 2 7/8 in the middle, which collectively gets it to be 5 1/8. So we're just going to go ahead and stick that on. And the reason I added them together is because when we come to do the designer series paper, you want to be able to make sure that the piece you choose is going to fit across the area that you think it's going to be. So I'm just going to add these as a layer, just with a really small border around, one on each side, and then the bigger one in the middle. So then when it comes to the designer series paper, we want there to be a continuity of the pattern. So these are cut, the two outside ones are cut at 7/8, and the one in the middle is cut at 2 5/8, which makes it 4 3/8 wide by 4, because we cut the 12 by 12 into 3 landscape strips. But this piece is 4 3/8, so when you've split it, it will stretch across the card. So let me just go ahead and put that on. So you make sure the pattern runs across. So when you cut the pieces, you cut 1 7/8, and then you cut the 2 3/8, and then you're left with the 1 7/8. Because if you cut them, you might mix your patterns up. So always make sure that you're cutting them so they fit across the card front. So that's the pattern. So now what we have to do is make them flip. So what we have to do is we have to stick these two pieces together and leave this one underneath. So what I did was I cut a piece, and it is 5/8. And then after I cut these two pieces left, there was a section of the original pattern which was quite plain. But luckily on the other side, they've got this lovely pebble pattern. However, because it's only 4 inches deep, it's not wide enough to go across. But the nice thing is when we stick the pattern, the circle on for the greeting, conveniently hiding under there is an extra little piece, so it doesn't matter. Where are my snips? So I'm just going to cut this down a little bit and stick that on, so it looks like a full layer, a full, full length of pebbles, but it doesn't need to be, because this piece is going to go on and hide it. So what we need to do is we need to fold the rest of the card away and only have the two pieces. You can leave them in place as long as you're sure where you're going to stick it isn't going to affect anything. This one was a bit of a close call, because if I'd moved it up any, I would have hidden. Look at that face. Look how cute that little face is. But in this instance, it doesn't really matter, because there's just the mummy with the baby on the back. So there's got a little bit of leeway as to how high you can put it. So I'm just going to stick those two out, and all we want to do is have glue as far as this ends. So it's a bit like the ZZ fold technique. You don't want to go further than this area here with your adhesive. So put some there and some there, and then we know when we stick it on, it's not going to show. So now that we've got the glue safely in place, we can go ahead. Make sure your pieces are gathered together, because if they swing out, it's not going to fit into the envelope. So, and because this is a 5.5 inch strip, you just need to make sure that we've lined it up at both edges. So now this piece will lift up and leave the middle piece behind. And then what we need to do is stick the greeting on with dimensionals. So the best trick is to not put it on the circle and see if it will line up. You can just put one on this side, one on the other side, and then you know there's going to be coverage up here, so you can put it right to the edge of the piece that lifts up. It's all like precision dimensionaling. And then when you stick this on, wherever you stick it, obviously you're going to be able to see that you've put the circle over the dimensionals, but then it will show up free and clear. So there you have it. You've got the first greeting, the second, and then there's all this lovely space inside for you to write your greeting. So I think it was quite a nice fun way to use that whole strip of really big, you know, these were big strong patterns. They weren't very repetitious. So that's the two of them. If you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you in advance for those. If you've got any questions or comments, pop those in the description box below. All the directions and dimensions, of course, as always, will be on my blog. And last but not least, thanks so much for watching.